All right, apologize for the delay, but we are ready to go. We can get started. Welcome to the November 15th, 2012 meeting of the Planning Commission. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum with Commissioners Hagan, Ferrari, King, Day, Friley, Hill, Peters, and Robbins. In attendance as well is Mr. Tyler Leonard from the Duval County School Board, to my left over here, as well as Mr. Matt Schellenhorn, military representative. Also in attendance to my far right are members of the City Planning and Development Department and a representative from the City Council, from the City Office of General Counsel. And seated to my left is our assistant today, Pat Johnson, and our court reporter, Diane Tropia. Let us stand and recite with enthusiasm the Pledge of Allegiance. It is important that an accurate record must be kept of the speakers and what is said. Everyone who wishes to speak before this commission must fill out a blue speaker's card, including applicants and agents, and place them in the basket besides our assistant over there to my left, to your right. These cards are located at the back of the room. These cards will be used to determine if there's any opposition to any particular item, which may affect the scheduling for the presentation of the items to be heard. The speaker's testimony is taken down by the court reporter, so it is important that a participant speak clearly into the microphone and only one person should speak at a time. Any tangible material submitted with a speaker's presentation, such as documents, photographs, plans, drawings, etc., which will be used in a presentation, will become a part of the public record and will be kept by this commission. Therefore, please retain a copy of anything submitted if it is needed. As a courtesy, please place any cell phones, pagers, or audible devices on silent mode. Items are generally addressed in the order in which they are listed on the agenda, which is located at the back of the room. However, items may be heard out of order for the sake of efficiency or to accommodate scheduling conflicts. This commission's bylaws provide that each member of the public who speaks before this commission is limited to a 3-minute presentation. A timer is available and may be used, so presentations must be focused and concise and should address only the items before us and limited to the criteria upon which our decision must be based. Decisions by this commission on rezonings, including planned unit developments and land use amendments, are recommendations only. The recommendations are transmitted to the Land Use and Zoning Committee of the City Council, which ultimately votes on these matters. The Land Use and Zoning Committee may or may not follow the recommendations of the Planning Commission, so it is recommended that public hearing notices be checked for additional public hearing dates beyond today. Unless specifically deferred by the Land Use and Zoning Committee, items voted on by the Planning Commission today are heard before the Land Use and Zoning Committee, which meets in this chambers at 5 o'clock. And I believe that date is
Tuesday, November 20th.
November 20th. Okay, so 5 days from today, they'll meet here, and there's another public hearing and vote. For any questions regarding a specific application, please see a Planning Department staff person seated to my right. And before we proceed any further, I want to give the floor over to our Planning Director, Mr. Calvin Burney. And after that, we'll go through the meeting's minutes from last time and the agenda. Mr. Burney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. I would like to ask Mr. Peters to come forward. Mr. Chairman, I wanted to take a few moments on the agenda today to recognize Mr. Peters for his outstanding work as the outgoing chairman of the Planning Commission. As you all know, that this is a non-compensatory position, and Mr. Peters has put in a lot of long hours. He served us well. He's gotten us out of these meetings in record time on some occasions. But I wanted to just take this opportunity to thank him for the work that he's done, and on behalf of the Planning Commission, and the Planning and Development Department, I would just like to present you with a token of our appreciation. And before I present this to you, I would just like to read the inscription, and it reads, "Presented to Dow W. Peters in appreciation for your distinguished service and contribution to the Planning Commission 2011 through 2012 as its chairman." Congratulations.
Thanks, Calvin. And as most of us know, Dow has endured some interesting situations as chair of this commission, and I'm finding out firsthand is involve a lot of work, and I can't say just how much we appreciate the year you chaired this. So thank you, Dow, very much. Okay, proceeding on. At this time, I'll ask the members of the commission to address the minutes from the prior meeting, dated 10/25/12.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, I move approval of the October 25 minutes.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. At this point, we will go through the agenda and address any items that may need to be deferred or moved around, and just let everyone know what we will and will not be hearing today. And then we will go back and start on the agenda items. So if you'll turn to the agenda to page 2, those 3 items there, items B1 and B2 as well as C1, will all be heard.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Something's come up as far as the staff is concerned with items 1 and 2 on page 2, E1261 and AD 1259. I'm not certain that we're going to ask for a deferral at this time. Staff is meeting with the applicant. We may want a deferral depending on the situation when the time comes. If you could just table that until we can resolve our staff issues.
Okay, so it'll be fine if we start just with the item after it, and once they've had a time to discuss, we can bring that up.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, well then, in E1266, we will hear at the bottom of page 2. On page 3, item E1267 at the top will be heard. CTW 1203, I believe we had an oral request for withdrawal.
To the Commissioner, yes. Actually, we have a written request for a withdrawal with fees for this application.
And how does the department feel about that?
The department, we issued a staff report in response to this, so that's...
And typically when we issue the staff report, do we not refund the fees?
That is usually the policy, yes, sir.
Okay. Is the owner or agent here for CTW 1203? If you don't mind just approaching, and state your name and address for the record.
David Johnson, a landscape architect representing Warming Tree Service. My address is, this is Rick Warming.
If you'll make sure you speak in the mic just so we can pick it up. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I live at 5960 US 1 South, St. Augustine, Florida.
And is this in regards to the cell tower?
Mr. Chairman, I believe these gentlemen are actually here for item 1 and 2 back on page 2.
Oh, okay,
the one
sorry.
that I said we'd like to table, but if they had a comment, I know staff has addressed them. I'd be interested
We have
to hear
no
what they
comment.
say.
We'd rather sidebar and talk and bring it back at another time.
So, okay, just, and make sure you speak into the microphone even if you're addressing them. Are you okay then deferring this till the next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
That's fine.
Okay. Well, let me back up here. Let's address E1261 and AD 1259. If you're fine, if the agent's okay with deferring it, then I'll defer those until the next meeting, which is November 20th.
No.
I'm sorry, no.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That would be November 29th.
November
And staff
29th.
appreciates that, and we'll get this straightened out by the next
Okay,
meeting.
so those items will be deferred then to November 29th, and we'll hear it then.
Do you want to talk to the staff first to figure it out, or you want to defer?
We're going to have to defer because
Thank you. And is the agent for CTW 1203 here? No? Okay. I guess I'll bring it back to, is there anyone else here today to speak to CTW 1203? I'll bring it to commission on whether or not we withdraw with fees or without fees. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we withdraw without fees if the staff has prepared the report and spent the time on it.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to withdraw CTW 1203 without the refund of fees. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. And then at the bottom of page 3, 2012-62 is deferred still, as well as the top of page 4, 2012-63. All right. Still on page 4, items 2012, 366, and 367. We've had a request that we're going to move those to the end of the agenda, and we're going to take those up after we've cleared out everything else. If you are here to speak to 2012, 366, or 367, we're going to move that to the end. That is going to probably entail a decent amount of discussion, and so that's going to be deferred to the end of the agenda. But it will be heard. And then at the bottom of page 4, 2012, 631 will also be heard. On page 5, all 4 of those items will be heard: 2012, 632, 637, 638, and 639. On page 6, items 6, 7, and 8 will be heard. And then under conventional rezonings, item 1 down there, 507, is deferred until November 29th. The top of page 7, that item 1, 2012-505 will be heard. And then minor mod 1219 will also be heard. Minor mod 1220 is deferred as we don't have a report, and I believe just deferred 1 cycle. Staff, is that correct? Okay, so that'll be heard at the November 29th meeting as well. Page 8, items 3 and 4 will be heard. And then under plan unit developments, item 2012-615 will be heard. And then item 2012-616, was there... I've got an X on my sheet. Was that requested to be deferred or withdrawn?
We do have a request for 1 cycle deferral.
1 cycle deferral, okay. Unless there's any opposition, is there anyone here today to speak to 2012-616? Okay. The gentleman that stood up out there is just reiterating the request to be deferred. Well, if there's no opposition, I'll defer 2012-616 1 cycle to November 29. And then at the top of page 9, 2012-617 will be heard. All right. So we can get started then. Let's see, we've deferred. So we'll get started at the bottom of page 2 with item E1266. Would the owner or agent please come up? And if you'll state your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Randy Gallup, P.O. Box 8883, Jacksonville, Florida 32239.
Would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And if staff, you'd introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for zoning exception E1266 is for property at 7840 and 7846 Phillips Highway, not far from Bay Meadows Road. This request is to allow for the retail sale of automobiles, including outside display, in the light industrial zoning district. Staff reviewed this application. We believe that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and could be compatible with the character of the area if certain conditions were adhered to. We did also balance this against the Phillips Highway Corridor Study, which was done and passed by City Council back in 2001. And in reflecting on that, we are proposing an approval with 2 conditions, and I'll read those into the record. 1, a minimum 5-foot wide and average 10-foot wide perimeter landscape area shall be provided along Phillips Highway. A continuous evergreen hedge, minimum 24 inches in height and spaced a minimum of 3 feet on center, shall be planted and maintained within all portions along Phillips Highway, and strike the reference to Greenland Road because this is nowhere near Greenland. So along Phillips Highway except for the access. 1 3-inch caliper evergreen tree shall be planted and maintained every 30 feet of road frontage. And then condition 2, there shall be 1 internally illuminated monument-style sign not to exceed 25 feet in height and 150 square feet in area. And again, those were derived after reviewing the study. But with that, we are recommending approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gallup, you have a recommendation with approval with a few conditions. Are you familiar with those, in agreement with them?
I am, Mr. Chairman. I've spoken with my client as well as the civil engineer, and we are incorporating these conditions into the civil design plans as we speak.
Okay. Any other comments that you have?
Just a little bit of background history on this project. This project was formerly known as Dutton's Government Surplus from about 4 or 5 decades. The site was remediated in the 2000s. It's currently vacant and is pretty much an infill project between two established commercial projects.
Okay. Is there anyone else here today to speak to E1266? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of application E1266 as conditioned and revised and read into the record.
I have a motion and a second to approve E1266 as conditioned and revised. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, E1267. The agent or applicant would come forward. Okay, and if you'll state your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
I'm Judy Doherty at 7203 Alderman Road, Jacksonville, Florida, 32211.
Okay, and are you, sorry, go ahead.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Doherty, are you the owner or agent, or what's the...
No, I'm a neighbor on the street. The street ends in our driveway, and
Okay.
everybody but everybody...
Oh, hold on, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we need the agent to come up first and speak to this. If we're going to have a time for everyone to submit comments, but to follow order, I need the agent for this application to come up first, and then we will give some time for public comment. Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed too much further, I need to recuse myself from this item. I have a financial interest in this, so I will sit this one out. Thank you.
And sir, if you'd state your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
My name is Ricardo Quiñones. I reside at 12443 Yoda Lane, Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Staff, if you'll introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for zoning exception E1267 is for unaddressed property along Alderman Road. It's on the east side of Arlington Road, just south of the Arlington Expressway, sort of across the street from Christ the King Catholic Church. The request is to allow for a nursing home in the RMDA zoning district. Staff reviewed the application. We believe this is a good use for this property. This would be appropriate infill at a good location. And it could be compatible with the character of the area. Most of the site is actually wetland, so only a small portion will actually be developed. And so we are recommending approval of this application, and we do not have any conditions. Thank you.
Okay. So you have a recommendation of approval from the staff. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not unless you have any questions.
No, and I'll give you some time to respond to any comments from the public afterwards. So.
Very good.
Okay. And Mr. and Mrs. Doherty, if you want to come up, I'll give you a chance to speak as well. And since we have already sworn you in, Mrs. Doherty, you can go ahead.
We've lived on the street for 46 years, and our house is the very end house, and everybody has to come to our driveway to get turned around. It's a one-lane road. There's no way to meet your neighbor without going up in a driveway in a yard. So the main concern we have is just the heavy traffic that's going to be on the street.
Okay.
Street needs to be widened, perhaps, and maybe a sign that there's no turnarounds at the end of the road. I've gone out and stopped the workers and asked them not to come down to try to turn around because there's nowhere to turn around.
And you live on Alderman Road, is that correct?
I do, the very last house.
The map I'm looking at here, is that where it meets Burt Road?
Burt Road's been closed, but
It's closed,
that's correct.
but it's at that northeast corner?
That's
basically.
correct.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to what's going in as much as
Okay.
I am the traffic that is the traffic problem.
Right. Well, let us, there'll be some time for the commission to address that, and if we have some more questions, we'll bring you up, but I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I don't have your speaker card, sir. I forget your last name. I apologize. But if you approach again, is there anything you'd like to add to their concerns?
A couple of things. This project is going to serve the community across the street of Harbor House. It's primarily for people with developmental disabilities who do not drive. They would be brought in by a van every day. There'll be a minimum number of staff involved. We're doing this by phases, but at the most there'll be 20 people. We recognize that the street is narrow. We're going to provide an internal turnaround within our development, so anybody coming in will be able to actually use our parking way to turn around and get out well ahead of where their house and their property start.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else here today to speak to E1267? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, but when you're done speaking, if you'll just fill it out and give it to, but your name and address for the record.
My name is Lana Shuttleworth. I live at 5443 Duke Road, Jacksonville, Florida. And my concern...
Well, hold on, let me have you sworn in real quick, sorry.
Would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of the narrow road, I think the issue is, too, there's a fire hydrant on Alderman. And so there's not enough space for a fire truck to be parked at that fire hydrant and for people to drive past it. So the road is too small, in my opinion, of a road to access a facility as large as this one's intended to be. Service trucks will have to go up and down the road bringing supplies, food or whatever. I'm not sure that those trucks, if there's a weight limit on that road, I think that that would probably exceed it. It's certainly not large enough.
Okay. Are you're familiar with that area, I take it?
I am.
Okay.
And also, I'm not sure if, because there is a large portion of that as wetlands, have they done the necessary procedure where they set aside other wetlands in another place? Because isn't that something that has to be done if you're developing wetlands?
That is, that requirement is met through a number of other permitting processes with the district. All that has to be done before the city will let them do any clearing, any building. And the site plan they've issued actually has a large amount of the wetlands and is not part of what's being developed. So from our standpoint, we don't, I mean, we can consider the physical characters of the property, but as far as permitting wetland and mitigation, that's done through another permitting process that the city oversees to make sure it takes place.
Okay.
But I understand your concern.
Yes.
Their current site plan shows all of it sort of outside the wetland line and then that parcel of upland there.
Okay. Well, again, my greatest concern then would be that if a fire truck, a rescue unit is parked there in Alderman, it will be virtually inaccessible to the residents there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I do want to just, in protocol, give the agent just a few seconds to respond.
I just want to provide some clarifications. If a fire truck comes, it would probably wind up parking in our parking lot, away from the street. And my understanding is that the road is narrow, but it actually meets current city requirements for a fire truck to get there. So, you know, based on that, we're not altering that.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else here today to speak to E1267? Well, you've actually already spoken, but if your husband wants to come up. Hold on, we can't take comments from the floor. I'm going to close the public hearing, but I will allow the commissioners to call on you to address that because I know it will be discussed. But I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to commission for discussion. And I guess staff, would you address your analysis of the traffic situation when you looked at this?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Again, this is a review of whether the Planning Commission feels that the use would be appropriate at this location. A lot of the concerns that they expressed, and they're very valid concerns, would be items that would be reviewed as part of the 10-set process that they're going to have to go through. That's where we take 10 sets of engineering plans and we route them to various entities, including traffic, and I believe the fire marshal will get a shot at it. Fire department will, in any directional signage that would be appropriate or any roadway improvements that need to be made would be forwarded at that, or would be considered at that time. So we did review this for traffic. There is one of the criteria, and I believe that is criteria 5, I want to think. Criteria 4, my apologies. So the staff did look at that. We felt that they do have adequate room to do proper site design when they go through their 10-set review, and so that did not cause us any alarm, and that's why we supported the request. Thank you.
Commission?
In follow-up to folks' comments, I'm a little confused because looking at the staff report dealing with the issue of traffic, what's cited is Arlington Road, but yet access to the property is going to be off Alderman. So why didn't we look at Alderman's condition?
The staff may not have actually articulated it in there, but I did the review. I reviewed the call as far as what to recommend on this application, and I was well aware that this was on this was going to be on Alderman Road for their access, but it's in very close proximity to Arlington Road, and with proper directional signage and a couple of good improvements, hopefully we could divert any traffic that might otherwise try to make a right turn leaving the facility and go down the wrong way.
In follow-up, and this might be to the agent, is there a reason why access to the property has to be via Alderman and not off of Arlington Road?
Because of the wetlands, which probably covers the point that she brought up earlier, we're actually staying completely off the wetlands. But the site does drop dramatically along Arlington Road. It would be hard to get a median cut there without having to cut down a bunch of trees that we're trying to save. I think from a traffic point of view, for this type of facility, having the access from a secondary road is most appropriate. I understand that the plan will be submitted for 10-set review, and through that process, they may have some comments related to the width of the road, and we would address those at that time.
Yeah, I guess in response to that, staff, and I'm somewhat familiar with this, but traffic will review that, and if there's a required expansion needed or anything traffic-wise, I mean, that will be done in the 10-set, correct?
To the chair, yes, sir. Lisa King couldn't be with us today, but she is actually the reviewing person for the 10-set review, and she'll consider the access points, and if she determines that Arlington Road is the more appropriate location, then she would ask for it to be designed as such.
We might want to qualify for the people who are concerned. That's a different Lisa King than me, who is a city employee and I'm just a volunteer commissioner, just so y'all know.
Commission, any other comments or questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if I could, to staff and also to Ms. Doherty, if you wouldn't mind making your way forward. I'm going to ask staff the question first, but give you time to come up. But Mr. Huxford, through the chair, even though it's a straight approval recommendation, is it safe to suggest that the site plan that came as part of the application would be adhered to or need to be adhered to? And in particular, my interest is the access that's shown, the circulation plan that's shown on that site plan.
And through the chair, it's considered a conceptual site plan, and it would largely be followed. However, if something comes up in the 10-set review and they needed to do a modification, certain thresholds can be handled at an administrative level. Others can be handled through an amendment to the final order if they needed to revise the site plan. And if the modification was too radical, then we would, of course, bring it back to Planning Commission with the second request.
Certainly. And thank you, Mr. Huxford. Just for clarification, and for Mrs. Doherty, before expanding on your additional comment, I want to confirm your residence, the Doherty home, is at the end where Burt Road, the closed Burt Road, intersects. And the site plan that's as part of this application does have the access off of Arlington right there, almost at that intersection. It doesn't envision going down the extent of Alderman Road to access this property. There, again, the preservation of the wetlands has most of the site furthest away from your home and your domicile. But you had mentioned you had another comment, and I was just going to ask you.
I had a comment about the fire truck that the lady brought up. My husband has had to have the ambulance and the fire truck numerous times, and they cannot get turned around. They have to back out. The garbage men have to back out. So if the builder would let his people know that they cannot come down there, there's nowhere to turn around, I would appreciate it.
There's no cul-de-sac. No.
And through the chair to Ms. Doherty and Mr. Doherty, again, this project offers a turnaround, enough space. It doesn't just offer a driveway in it. It does offer a parking lot, as I can see it. Mr. Quinones, if he disagrees, can expound on that for me. But again, this offers a place for a turn in, and not just to park on Alderman Road to service the vehicles. And again, the city's development review process assures that traffic as well as fire safety are looking at these plans to make sure that there's no threat to public health, safety, and welfare on Alderman residents as well. So again, I didn't know if you had seen the site plan for what the circulation plan was, but I wanted to make sure that I was clear as we vote on this in a moment, that the turnaround or the need to go anywhere near the Doherty domicile at the end of the street doesn't appear to be necessary. And Mr. Quinones, just if a nod of affirmative or negative, have I misrepresented anything that you have in any way? And for the record, he's signifying no. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Doherty.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments from the Commission?
I was going to say, if there are no other comments, Mr. Chairman, I move approval of application E1267.
I have a motion and a second to approve E1267. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thanks a lot. And that brings us now to the bottom of page 4, 2012-631 and companion rezoning 2012-632. We'll open up both of those together. Mr. Harden.
I have my cards. I'll take them other thing. Yeah. Paul Harden, 501 Riverside Avenue.
All right. And staff, if you would introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ordinance 2012-631. This property is located at 6620 Pickett Drive. It is located on the south side of Sutel Drive at the intersection of Sutel Drive and Pickett Drive. The subject property is located within an area designated as an industrial situational compatibility on the industrial preservation map. The request is to take the current designation, which is low-density residential, and the amendment is to light industrial. The property consists of approximately 4.88 acres. The department has reviewed the request and recommends approval.
Folks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for rezoning ordinance 2012-632 is the companion rezoning, seeking to take the property from the RR Acre zoning district to the industrial light zoning district. Echoing what Gary said, the staff reviewed it, and we found that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, presuming that you adopt the land use amendment. I would note the property just to the south was changed from residential to light industrial not that long ago, and the area is trending towards industrial, so we feel that this is a good request, and we are recommending approval.
All right, no conditions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Are there cards other than mine?
Nope.
Okay, no, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And just so there aren't any conditions, but it's a conventional zoning, not a PUD.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Is there anyone else here today to speak to either 2012-631 or 632? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move a recommendation to the LUZ for approval of 2012-631.
I have a motion and a second for approval of 2012-631. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, Commission, I similarly make a motion. I move approve a recommendation of approval of 2012-632.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-632. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries as well. Thank you, Ms. Harden. 2012-637 and 638. We'll go ahead and open both up of those as well. If Mr. Spofford. name and address for the record.
Ray Spofford, 14775 Old St. Augustine Road, Jacksonville, 32258.
Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ordinance 2012-637. This application is located at the northeast intersection of Main Street and Yellow Bluff Road. It's approximately 2 miles south of the Nassau County line. It consists of 9.9 acres. Currently, the land use designation is rural residential. The request is to take it to neighborhood commercial. Given the proximity to the Timucuan Ecological and Historic Preserve, we made a request of the park and asked if they had any concerns with this proposed amendment. They indicated they reviewed the land use amendment and the proposed PUD, and they indicated to us that they had no concerns. The department has reviewed this application, and we recommend approval.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is application, the companion application, Plan Unit Development 2012-638, seeks to rezone the property from RR Acre to PUD. The application proposes developing the subject property with up to 15,000 square feet of neighborhood supporting commercial, retail, and service uses. Those uses may include a fast food restaurant with drive-through facilities, a gas station, convenience store, and a bank with drive-through facilities. Staff has reviewed this application and finds that if the land use amendment is approved, then this will be consistent with the 2030 comprehensive plan. We have also reviewed this for internal and external compatibility requirements. The department is recommending conditions to provide better protection to the adjacent residential areas, since this is a sort of a commercial use that is going into a predominantly residential area. This is also, the location is also within the North Jacksonville Shared Vision and Master Plan, so we're recommending some conditions about the location of dumpsters and the lighting for the subject property. The department is recommending approval of 2012-638, subject to the 11 conditions in your report. And I would like to just revise condition 8. It's a little wordy, so I think this makes it a little bit easier to understand. Condition 8 would be, there shall be a 20-foot wide undisturbed buffer along the southern boundary, period. And then also with condition 10, want to use, I guess, parentheses around multifamily use when vertically integrated with a permitted use within that condition. And let me explain that. It's actually a use that is permitted directly from the zoning code. So it's a little wordy right there, but it is just like a gas station. This is the use. We do not think that a commercial, a building with commercial on the first floor and residential above would be appropriate at this location, and we're recommending that be prohibited. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Spofford, do you have a recommendation for approval on the land use and then approval with conditions on the rezoning? Are you familiar with and in agreement with those conditions?
Yes, I'm familiar with the conditions, and we have no problem with the majority of those conditions, including the 2 revisions that he just went over. Although I would like to address 4 of the conditions, if I may.
Yes, please.
Conditions 2 and 3 reference a date for the written description and site plan. Those dates are August 17th and 22nd, respectively. However, in October, the Office of General Counsel requested a revised written description and site plan, and that was submitted on October 17th, so I think that should be the correct date.
October 17th for the written description?
Yes,
Okay.
and also for the site plan in condition 3.
Staff, can you confirm that? We'll confirm that in a second. I don't want to hold up the meeting. What were the other two conditions you wanted to address?
Condition number 4 refers to really 3 memorandums, one of which was the Department of Transportation memorandum. And earlier in the staff report on page 5, it essentially, the staff interpretation of the DOT memorandum is that there be no access to Main Street. And looking at both the DOT memorandum and also the Development Services memorandum from Lisa King, dated October 5th, it doesn't require or doesn't prohibit access.
Right.
So we just want to be subject. We would like clarification in that condition that we are just simply subject to DOT permitting for access on Main Street.
Okay. That was condition 4?
Yes.
Yep. And staff, is the applicant correct in that the interpretation of the department is that we are prohibiting access off of Main Street, or are we just saying that they need to comply with the FDOT memo, or be subject to FDOT review? Just to clarify.
I think it would be best simply to defer to DOT since it's their roadway.
Okay. And Jason, the way that number 4 reads, is that how it's going to be interpreted, or do we need to change that?
If what I'm hearing is a desire is to just make it pursuant to the FDOT memo, is that what I'm hearing? If that's the case, then you would strike through the Planning Department Transportation memorandum as well as the Development Services Division memorandum, if staff wants to just affirm that. So basically the way the condition would read is that the subject property shall be developed in accordance with the Florida Department of Transportation memorandum dated October 16th, or, well, period.
Or as otherwise, okay.
Well, yeah, it'd be period because
okay. And staff, are you okay with that, or is there anything else in those memorandums that would be we would be cutting out?
The staff would be fine with that,
Okay.
noting that this still will go through a 10-step review, and
Right.
Lisa King in our transportation area will have a chance to get a crack at it there as well.
And Mr. Spofford, does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that we weren't prohibited access. It's a DOT permitting issue.
Right. And what was the last condition?
The last condition is condition number 11 that states the uses within the northern 600 feet of the property shall be limited to offices, daycare, and neighborhood retail sales. As far as we can tell from the definition in the zoning code, neighborhood retail sales allows everything that we want except for drive-through facilities. And so we would prefer to have drive-through facilities, given that the site has a significant buffer from the adjoining residential by preserved wetland and a greater separation in distance or setback. So we would like to have that one struck altogether.
Take out number 11. Staff, can you comment on that?
We have reviewed this condition a little bit further since the issuance of the staff report, and I have been made aware of the extensive wetlands that will be preserved, so we wouldn't have an objection to striking that particular one, number 11.
All right. Well, unless commission feels different when we talk about it,
Okay.
we'll go ahead and strike number 11 as well. Okay. And is there anything else you'd like to add in general?
That's it.
Is there anyone else here today to speak to either 2012 637 or 638? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
I have a question.
Yes.
For staff. If we had any communication from the CPAC on these applications?
Through the chair, I was at the North CPAC meeting last night, and they voted for recommended approval of this request.
Thank you very much. I just don't want to let Mark Hardesty down.
Oh, that was a very good question.
Through the chair to Mr. Lewis, did we get any confirmation on the dates of the written description and the map? Was it, in fact, October 17th?
We will use those dates, October 17th.
I just have a quick question. If we're going to use those dates, that's fine, but are they the dates that will be placed on the written description and the site plan that are in the report? Okay. They're confirming that the written description and the site plan that are in the report will be the ones dated October 17th.
Unless there are other comments, Mr. Chairman, I move a recommendation of approval to the LUZ of 2012-637.
I have a motion and a second for approval of 2012-637. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Similarly, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully recommend to the LUZ approval of 2012-638 with 10 conditions, striking condition 11 in the staff report and modifying conditions 2, 3, 4, 8, and 10 as presented and read into the record.
I have a motion and a second to approve, to respectfully approve, as conditioned and amended, 2012-638. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries as well. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarity for the benefit of the LUZ committee, does the Planning Commission have any concerns about any of these conditions being incorporated into a revised written description should the applicant desire to do so?
I'll let the Commission address that. I don't have any reason to believe any of these are important enough, but unless someone else here does.
Yeah, just through the chair to Mr. Huxford as maker of the motion, again, being sensitive to the chairwoman's intent and the new direction we'd like to follow, I didn't make any of those as a recommendation for written description. But yes, for clarity, I'm fine with, as the maker of the motion, fine with them being conditions outside of that. Thank you for asking.
All right. Let's move on then to 2012-639 at the bottom of page 5 and companion rezoning 2012-640 at the top of page 6. Mr. Tarbox, if you will state your name and address.
My name is Troy Tarbox. The address is 1785 Emerson Street, Jacksonville, Florida, 32207.
Thank you. And staff, if you would introduce the items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ordinance 2012-639. This property is located at 13434 St. Augustine Road. It is located on the south side of Old St. Augustine Road, and it's approximately 500 feet west of Julington Creek. The property consists of 0.55 acres. The request is to go from the current designation of low-density residential to neighborhood commercial. The property contains a convenience store and a gas station, and these uses were developed sometime in the 1970s and has been in continued use since that time. The department has reviewed the application and recommends approval.
Application for Plan Unit Development 2012-640 is the companion to the 2012-639 land use application. This is rezoned approximately half an acre from RLD 90 to PUD. The proposed PUD district is being sought to bring the existing filling and gas station and convenience store into conformance with the zoning code, as well as allow permitted uses under the commercial neighborhood zoning district. The development of this property, it predates that of the Julington Crossing residential subdivision that was started in construction in 1984 that is across Old St. Augustine Road. Staff has reviewed this application and finds that with approval of the land use amendment, it will be consistent with the 2030 comprehensive plan, and that the written description and site plan do meet the internal and external compatibility requirements that we reviewed this under. The department is recommending approval of 2012-640 subject to those 4 conditions in your report.
Thank you. Mr. Tarbox, you have a recommendation for approval on the land use and on the zoning approval with conditions. Are you familiar with and in agreement with those conditions?
I did read them. I have to apologize. I don't have that report with me, but if I recall from one of the conditions referred to the site plan that we submitted. And
yeah, I mean, I can tell you real quick. The first one is subject to the legal description dated September 11th, 2012. Second one is subject to developed in accordance with the written description dated August 24th. And number 3 is the subject will be developed in accordance with the site plan dated August 24th. And number 4 is the subject property shall be developed in accordance with the Development Services Division Memorandum dated October 8th.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I read
or
it.
as otherwise approved. So those are the 4 conditions that are in
Okay.
there.
The third condition, I think, is possibly needs to be reworded because it refers to a site plan of existing conditions. And what we want to be able to do is provide the owner with the zoning that will make his current use legal.
Right.
But if he ever, if he has a fire or if he ever wants to add on to it, we're not tied to that existing site plan, but we're tied to the zoning code that is, described in the PUD.
Yeah, staff can comment on this. Typically with PUDs, we try to tie it somewhat to a site plan because that is part of why we go through the PUD process and allowing some flexibility. But I mean, I'm pretty sure the way it's currently worded, what they have there now is fine. But if you could address the question about adding on in the future, that has to come through minor mod or what?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to Mr. Troybox. Obviously, the PUD is right now tied to that site plan. If the owner decides to demolish the gas station and build something else, or if it burns down and he decides to rebuild, he can certainly rebuild in its current configuration. But any other use, any other building, any increase in the square footage, he would have to come back through probably as a minor modification for the Planning Commission to review the new site plan then.
Okay, because the PUD describes, percent impervious allowed, which is more than what's existing. So, current configuration, we just don't want to be tied to current configuration.
Yeah, I know the advantage, if the written description allows for it, the advantage is if it's just a site plan amendment, it's just a minor mod, which is a little bit quicker process. But as it currently is, and as is typical with all of our PUDs, I mean, we're going to tie it to a site plan. So, I mean, unless staff thinks of another way that we could address this issue. I mean, the way I understand it, it's typically it's currently non-conforming. If they were adding anything, it would have to be brought before us anyways to see the new site plan that they would be proposing. Is that correct?
That is correct, right. But through the minor modification, if you did have if you needed to increase your setbacks or increase your lot coverage, you could do that through the minor modification at the same time.
Okay. All right, if there's no other way to deal with that, then that's what we'll take.
I mean, unless you want to submit a new site plan with the proposed future building pad at this point.
Yeah, the owner has no plans to change it, but we don't want to, 5 years from now, run into a roadblock.
Yeah, I mean, if it's allowed in the text, if it's in the written description, I mean, I think as long as it conforms with the current will be current land use, it shouldn't be too hard of a process. But it is something that we typically ask for. So.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
That's it.
Is there anyone else here today to speak to 2012 639 or 640? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move recommendation of approval to LUZ for 2012-639.
I have a motion and a second for approval of 2012-639. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman and Commission, move recommendation of approval to the LUZ of 2012-640 as conditioned.
I have a motion and a second for 2012-640 as amended as conditioned. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries as well. Thank you. 2012-641 and companion rezoning 2012-642. Mr. White, if you'll state your name and address.
My name is Robert White with Taylor & White, 9556 Historic Kings Road South, Jacksonville, 32257.
Thanks. And staff, if you'll introduce the two items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ordinance 2012-641. This property is located on the north side of Stockton Street and it is just west of the intersection with Stockton Street in the Riverside Avondale Historic District. The property consists of 0.08 acres, and currently it consists of vacant land. The request is to take the land use designation from low-density residential to community general commercial. The department has reviewed the application and recommends approval.
Mr. Huxford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for rezoning ordinance 2012-642 is the companion rezoning, seeking to change the property from the RLD 60 zoning district to the CCG 1 zoning district. As Gary said, we feel that this is appropriate at this location. This is located within the Riverside Avondale Historic District, so any work done would have to go through any certificate of appropriateness from the JHPC. And staff has been working very closely with Mr. White and his group on this project, so we're already headed in that direction. And with this, we are recommending approval with no conditions.
Okay. I had the page flipped. Mr. White, you have a recommendation on both of approval with no conditions, and I don't have any other speakers' cards here. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, Mr. Chairman, just appreciate your support.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here today to speak to 2012-641 or 642? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Move for approval of 2012-641.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-641. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Move for approval of 2012-642.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-642. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries as well. Thank you, Mr. White. On the top of page 7, 2012-505, I have the owner or agent, if they would approach the podium. And if you would state your name and address.
Jim Smoke, 3183 Russell Road, Green Cove Springs.
All right, and staff, if you would introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application for rezoning ordinance 2012-505 is a rezoning request located at 9429 Parman Road, seeking to rezone property from PUD to the RR Acre zoning district. If this looks familiar, it's because it already came through the Planning Commission earlier this year as a request to rezone from PUD to AGR. Planning Commission approved it, but when it reached the LUZ committee, there was some concern expressed about the more intensive uses that can be allowed in the AGR zoning district, and it was believed that it would be more appropriate to rezone this back to RR Acre, which is the property was actually zoned prior to the PUD. Staff has reviewed this application, and we are recommending approval with no conditions. Thank you.
Sir, you have a recommendation for approval, and I don't have any of the speakers' cards here. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
All right. Anyone else here to speak to 2012-505? Seeing none, I will close public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Chairman, move approval, a recommendation of approval of 2012-505.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-505. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Minor mod 1219. Mr. Duggan? We got the easel, huh? This is true. If you'll state your name and address, and then while they're
Wyman Duggan, 1301 River Place Boulevard, Suite 1500.
Perfect. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is application for minor modification to a plan unit development MM-2012-19, which seeks to revise the site plan to include an additional amenity center along the eastern property line. The original site plan showed one amenity center on the southwestern corner of the property adjacent to San Pablo. This proposed additional amenity center will be located, again, in the southeastern portion, adjacent to existing single-family residential properties. There is I've included in our report well, let me just say that this property has undergone three, I think, previous rezonings. I've included site plans from those previous rezonings, which each site plan showed this. This would be in the top left portion of your page, would be the location, has always showed it as being wooded and undeveloped. There is also a, within the, at the end of this, the application, it shows the exact location of the amenity center and an enlargement of that, which shows a clubhouse, a pool, barbecue area, and restrooms for that. We have reviewed this application and finds that even though there is no increase in the number of dwelling units, they are revising the site plan, and we feel that this is inconsistent with the two flu policies that are in your report, protecting neighborhoods from potential negative impacts and providing some design standards to ensure compatibility with adjacent uses and to protect the neighborhood scale and character. With that, we are recommending denial of MM-2012-19.
All right. Mr. Duggan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any other speaker cards?
I have just one. Yours.
Okay, thank you. Just some brief background. This is a 399-unit apartment complex. It was approved originally in 2007, and it's currently under construction. It's just off of San Pablo Road, just south of Atlantic. There have been, as Mr. Lewis mentioned, there was a PUD amendment in 2008 and another in 2011. And I've handled all of those, and I can tell you that at no point during any of those rezonings has there been any comment from the neighborhood. Nobody has come from the neighborhood to address any of either the LUZ or the Planning Commission, and you can see that they haven't today. Mr. Lewis is correct. In the various iterations of the site plan through the years, this area was always shown as wooded. There was a drive aisle. All the buildings are to the interior, as you can see on the site plan. During the site planning, though, now that they are actually building this project, they realized that this corner could be used for a second recreational amenity area, as you can see here, and as Mr. Lewis described in his staff report. The main recreational amenity area is up essentially just off of San Pablo. This is a secondary amenity area. The other one is much larger, has more square footage, and essentially more amenities in it. So this will be a secondary amenity area somewhat for the back end of the project. Let me just say again that I haven't received any contact from the community as the agent. Mr. Lewis told me yesterday that he has not received any contact from the community in response to the signs or the mailed notices on this application. So there are three criteria for a minor modification. The staff report says we meet two of them. It says we do not meet the third because there has been, quote, a change in the location of an approved land use, which namely is the placing of an amenity area in an area that had previously been designated as undeveloped. I would submit to you that this is not a change in an approved land use. An amenity area is not a different land use for multifamily residential. And the reason that it isn't is because it's a required component of multifamily residential. The code, section 656.1210D, requires 150 square feet of recreation and open space for each multifamily dwelling unit. You cannot do a multifamily dwelling unit without providing recreation and open space unless you seek relief. So I think it's a mistake to describe this area that's now being used as an amenity area instead of just left treed and wooded as a change in land use, because it's all part of a multifamily residential land use. It's not a different land use. It's a required ancillary component of the multifamily land use. So I would say that for that reason alone, the staff report, that's their basis for the denial, is that we don't meet that third criterion, is incorrect. It goes on, though, to state that the staff report does that an amenity area in this location has an adverse impact on the surrounding property owners due to noise and activities, and that an amenity area serving multifamily residential is incompatible when situated next to single-family residential. That's what your staff report says. Just to orient you to what the surrounding area is before I address that, your staff report has some aerial photographs to help you with this. At the bottom of page 6, there's a photograph of an empty lot with a for sale sign in it. That is a platted but unopened road. and it borders this parcel right here. All of this is a platted but unopened road. It's not a private residence. I don't know who owns it, but it's shown, it doesn't have an address. It's shown as platted but unopened road. This parcel here is a mobile home that looks, I drove out there yesterday. To me, it looks abandoned. There, you can see in some of your aerials there's an above-ground pool on this parcel that is full of black water. To me, it just looked like an abandoned property. Over here, there's a stick-built home that, according to the GIS ruler, is approximately 55 feet away from the common property line. And then on this parcel here, there's a mobile home that's approximately, it's oriented perpendicularly to my client's property, so their end cap faces this area. And it's approximately 30 feet away from the property line. So those are the surrounding properties that the Planning Department staff report feels might be adversely burdened by this activity. I want to focus on their comment that an amenity area is incompatible when situated next to single-family residential. That may be true in a vacuum, but the code itself provides for uncomplimentary use buffers in section 1216A and B. So the code itself acknowledges that where two uses would otherwise be uncomplimentary, they can be adjacent to each other if they are adequately screened and buffered. Your staff report doesn't address this point, but let me tell you what the code requirements are for multifamily adjacent to single family. It's a 10-foot strip with a visual screen 6 feet high that's 85% opaque minimum. Now, this project is going to exceed all of those parameters, and I'll go through that in detail. Instead of providing a 10-foot strip, we're going to provide a 15-foot strip. Instead of providing a 6-foot buffer or visual screen, we're going to provide an 8-foot tall fence. Instead of it being a minimum 85% opaque, our fence is going to be 100% opaque. And then on the inside of that fence, we're going to provide landscaping that is a minimum of 7 feet tall at planting and will be cultivated to a minimum of 10 feet tall. And that's what this nice site plan is designed to convey to you. This says 6-foot tall fence. It's actually going to be 8. That's the architect's error. So we got the 15-foot buffer, 8-foot tall fence, minimum 7-foot tall landscaping at installation, and I have a draft condition that has all of this that I'll be submitting to you, so you don't have to furiously scribble. So that's what we're committing to do here, and which is consistent with, again, with the zoning code acknowledgement that you can have two uses adjacent to each other that might otherwise be uncomplimentary if they're adequately screened and buffered. So we've complied with that. Again, the staff report is silent on the fact that the code allows for this uncomplimentary buffer. And furthermore, the staff report has no analysis as to why an uncomplimentary buffer designed to address exactly this situation and allowed and provided for under the code is insufficient in this situation to protect the interests of these adjacent property owners. There's no analysis in your staff report of this uncomplimentary buffer provision in the code that we're meeting and exceeding in all respects. The staff report instead cites these two flu policies that one of them addresses scale transitions, and the other one addresses bulk, massing, and height restrictions as the basis for the denial. Now, I would submit to you that a recreational amenity area here furthers and is consistent with those two policies. It doesn't conflict with them. We could put a 45-foot tall building in this area here as long as we were 30 feet away from the property line with a 10-foot uncomp buffer and the 20-foot setback, building setback, that this PUD otherwise requires for buildings. So 30 feet away from this property line, we could put a 45-foot tall building, and we would be consistent. Now, I submit to you that a recreational area with a pool and a pavilion screened by an 8-foot fence and a 10-foot hedge and a 15-foot buffer is a more favorable scale transition as far as the neighbors are concerned than a building. And it has no bulk or massing or height impacts when compared to a building, because all of these amenities are going to be invisible to the neighbors. They're not going to be able to see them behind an 8-foot fence. So for those reasons, I think this use is actually consistent with those three flu policies and furthers them, excuse me, those two policies, and furthers them. I want to reiterate again, this is not the only amenity area that this development will have. It's going to have a much larger one up on San Pablo. So I think the bulk of the residents will probably utilize that amenity area. So you're not going to have all 399 units trying to utilize this amenity area. So again, there's going to be less use than would be the case if we were the only one. So I have some proposed conditions that I want to distribute.
Is that basically a summary of kind of what you laid out as far as the what you're willing to agree to?
Yes.
Okay.
So because this is a denial, the first condition would be, Aaron, can you pass the?
Yeah, if you want to hand them to our assistant, and she can get us a copy of them.
So the first condition would be that a minor modification be granted to allow a second recreational amenity area at the eastern end of the development as set forth in the application MM 1219. The second would be that the second recreational amenity area be screened from the adjacent single-family residential properties by a 15-foot buffer containing an 8-foot vinyl fence that is 100% opaque and a landscaped hedge that is a minimum 7 feet tall and 85% opaque at the time of installation, and that shall be cultivated to a minimum height of 10 feet. And the third would be that no children under 12 will be permitted in the second recreational amenity area without adult supervision. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand by for questions.
Okay, and judging from the site plan, actually, let me do this. Is there anyone else here today to speak to MM 1219? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission. Judging by the site plan, this looks like a lap pool. I mean, is that the intention of what's going in here?
I can't tell you yes or no, but I could see why you would think that. It's possible.
Do you have any idea as far as amplified music or lighting for this specific site, what they intend to do?
I don't, but I'm happy to entertain a condition on those issues.
I mean, there's a few things I can understand as far as impact on the neighboring residents. Noise being one, and honestly, the idea of no children under 12, though some adults can get very rowdy, it does help. But you know, amplified sounds and lighting at night would both be some other things that I think could be obtrusive. I don't know if if the owner is willing to agree to either some sort of requirement for the lighting that's out here, or
well,
I know from a security reason standpoint, I don't know about this place not lit at all. But I'm just curious if you had talked about or discussed with them, what lighting would be in place out there.
The PUD already has a provision that requires that there be no light intrusion onto adjacent and surrounding properties. So
Okay.
we're going to do that anyway. If you want to provide some additional conditions, I think that's reasonable. I know that this area will be under closed circuit TV,
Okay.
security camera surveillance. There might need to be some minimal lighting to make sure that that still works in the dark, but other than that, I think we're happy to entertain any condition that you want to propose in that regard. And
Okay.
the same with the amplified music.
Okay. And that building there, the way it's on the site plan, is oriented away from the neighbors, correct? The only entrance and exit would be
here.
Right there, okay. Commission?
I have a question. Why are we doing a second amenity center? I'm not used to developers throwing in extra good stuff.
Well, I think the answer, this is speculation. This is just speculation. I think the answer is the multifamily component is very hot right now in the development segment. This area of town, I think it's close. You can't tell from this site plan, but the Intracoastal Waterway Bridge is less than a quarter of a mile to the east from this location once you get up to Atlantic. So I think this is an area where the developers feel there's a nice market segment for folks who want to be close to the beach but not pay for beach prices. And I think they just want to make it a more attractive place to live. And so they can say 2 amenity centers.
Through the chair, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis, should the commission entertain some conditions, will we want to include the data of the written description and site plan as well, in your opinion?
If that were the desire of this commission, and if you were to go with an approval with conditions, the site plan that's in there, that's applied for, as well as the written description, would be approved. So you don't need to do any specific conditions. And in fact, the the three conditions that Mr. Duggan handed out, I think number one you wouldn't even need, because if it were to be an approval, it would be approving that by virtue of the plan.
Okay.
But of course, you'd want to entertain the other two and any others.
Any other thoughts?
Just for the commission discussion, but first, thank you, Mr. Duggan, for the explanations and the offering of the conditions. This one I scratched my head a little bit about on the adverse effect on the neighboring property. So, as someone who's lived in an apartment before, we're hoping folks will be in it, but I don't see this as a constant use or splash parties constantly 24/7, or there's no control on that. But I just didn't find this as innocuous, as much as I hate to disagree with staff report, or being something that would cause an adverse impact. I feel that the second and third, I'm not sure how you enforce the third, but let's keep it in there. But I would be in favor of recommendation of approval subject to these types of conditions, but I welcome comments from the rest of the commission as well. But again, this was a head scratcher for me as to the incompatibility. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just another comment through the chair. If we reduce the lighting, sound, and all that, I don't know if it's necessary if we put a time limit on when this amenity center may be open. Say you close it at 9. If you close it at 9, do you really need the reduced lighting? Then you kind of solve your security camera issue. I'm sure people are going to want to go out there and have a good time, and you don't want to, I guess, burn them too much. But if you put a time, like a time that this is open, I don't know. I'm going to leave that to you, Mr. Duggan. You make that call. But I just want to throw it out there for discussion and see if any commissioners want to go with that or in that direction at all.
Mr. Duggan, have you guys contemplated that at all, like an hour of operations for this specific amenity center?
I have not had that conversation with my client, but again, I think we'd be happy to agree to a reasonable time limit. Again, there's another amenity center they can use. It's not like this is the only one. So if you wanted to propose, say, 10 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday, 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday,
yeah.
I mean, I hate to bid against myself, but
I mean, if it is a lap pool, I mean, it'd be people are going to be out there early, so I wouldn't want to, necessarily limit on that end. But any other thoughts on that from the commission?
Just to the chair, I think the city's light there are conditions in the existing PD written description that talk about the lighting intrusion on the adjacent properties, and I guess our noise ordinance comes into play. Again, not knowing what's in there, and again, it's just in the design phase. I'm scared. I'm trepidatious about putting any kind of time limit on it. I mean, we have ordinances in place to prevent nuisance to the adjacent properties. Just an opinion.
Through the chair, just looking at this application, I'm okay with the proposed conditions, scratching number 1 as indicated. Number 2, I'm okay with number 2. Number 3, I'm also I can't remember if it was Commissioner Robbins or Commissioner Hagan that mentioned I guess the enforcement of item number 3, but as far as the surrounding context and with the additional relief through buffers, through vegetation, I would be okay with approving this with the conditions proposed by the applicant.
Yeah, and I think to that comment, those unenforceable conditions we always struggle with. I would like to either modify or add to condition 3 that signs to this extent be posted, because that is a bit more enforceable.
Oh, sure.
And maybe if that can be just modified slightly. And I don't know if you're okay with it, but I would like to add that there not be any amplified music on exterior amplified music on the premises. And that, I think, is something we can review when Tinset comes out, that they're not planning any sort of like exterior speakers. I mean, I don't see this being, the big party zone area, and I would hope it, wouldn't be that way. And I don't know if you're okay with that, but that'd be my one concern.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. But, I mean, other than that, I feel similarly to some of the other commissioners that I think the written description in the city code take care of the lighting issues and, evening noise pollution and that type of thing, that the conditions we have here should be adequate for me.
Mr. Chair, to the chair, the exterior amplified, would that be limited to the secondary, this new ancillary, or the
Yeah.
southeastern, this new
Yeah,
location?
yeah, just to this one, not to the front one. Whatever has been approved for the front, I don't really want to get into.
That said, Commissioners and Mr. Chairman, I move approval of minor modification 1219 with 3 conditions. First and foremost, the second one handed out as proposed conditions by Mr. Duggan. The second one being number 3 on the said list, with the addition of signs being posted stating the same, and then a third one that no exterior amplified music be permitted on this secondary recreation amenity.
Okay, and before we vote, Mr. Gabriel, if you want to.
I know it sounds silly, but on the signs being posted, I guess in a conspicuous location, how many signs are we talking about? 1 or 2, or
At least 1.
Just be objective a little bit. 1. Okay, at least 1 sign.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Movable or changeable. Oh. Sorry.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve MM 1219 as conditioned and read into the record. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Duggan.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're getting close. Mr. Edwards, MM 1221.
Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Edwards comes up, I must recuse myself from this one as well, as I have worked on this project and possibly could work on it in the future.
Thank you very much. So at least you got some work. That's good news. Name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Gray Edwards, 1885 Corporate Square Boulevard, 32216. And for the court reporter, that's Gray. I know that's a difficult name.
Raise your right hand for me, please. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Staff?
Thank you, sir. This is application for minor modification to a plan unit development MM-12-21, which requests to reduce the two-way drive aisle width from 24 feet to 20 feet to protect existing trees and to reduce perimeter vehicle use area buffer from 5 feet to 1 foot minimum along Arlington Road. The application does include a site plan of this revised alignment. Staff has reviewed this application and finds that it does meet the 3 criteria. There is no change to the approved land uses. The driveway and streets do not significantly alter the general distribution of traffic, and there is no change to any of the conditions set forth. Department is recommending approval of MM-1221 without conditions.
All right. Mr. Edwards, you have a recommendation for approval? And I don't have any other speakers' cards except for yours. Anything else you'd like to add?
Okay, I'll just say that the purpose of this is just we're relocating some parking, particularly handicap parking, and then also with the landscape modifications, just to allow us to fit the parking in without having to take down additional really nice trees. There's several big trees in there we're trying to work around. So.
Okay. Anyone else here today to speak to MM-1221? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Chairman, I move approval of MM-1221.
Have a motion and a second to approve MM-1221. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good seeing you.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do. It takes a special kind of person to do what y'all do.
Ouch. All right. MM-1222, if the agent or owner could come up, please. If you'd state your name and address, and our court reporter will swear you in.
Tom Bradford, 446 Gus Hip Boulevard, Rockledge, Florida, 32955.
Would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Staff?
Thank you, sir. This is, again, application for minor modification MM-2012-22, seeks to allow for additional signage on the Goodwin Street elevation of this apartment building. The PUD currently allows for a monument sign fronting on Riverside Avenue, but as the entrance to the structure and leasing office are located off Goodwin Street, the applicant is requesting to amend the PUD to allow for this additional sign. The subject property is located within the historic residential character area of the Riverside Avondale overlay zoning overlay, and within the historic district. They are proposing a non-illuminated wall sign not to exceed 22 square feet in the area. Staff has reviewed this application. It finds that it does not violate the three criteria that we have there. We are recommending approval of MM-12-22, subject to the one condition.
All right. Sir, you have a recommendation for approval with a condition. Are you familiar with and agreement with that condition?
I am.
Okay. I don't have any other speakers' cards here. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just want to say the sign will be fabricated of quarter-inch thick aluminum. It never was intended to be illuminated.
Okay.
It'll only be ambient lighting, painted with an automotive-grade finish, so pretty minor deal.
Okay. All right, is there anyone else here today to speak to MM-1222? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of MM-1222.
Is that with condition? Is a condition for the sign not to be illuminated?
Well, it doesn't apply, so I don't know if we need to.
Well, I know the sign is proposing doesn't apply, but the recommendation was just so that they don't ever have the ability in the future to put a illuminated
With
sign
condition.
there. I have a motion and a second to approve MM-1222 as conditioned. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. 2012-615. The agent would come up. If you would just state your name and address for the record again.
Ricardo Quiñones, 12443 Jora Lane.
Okay, and staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is application for plan unit development 2012-615, seeks to rezone approximately 2 acres from lands from CRO to PUD. The rezoning is being sought so that the property can be developed with a maximum of 80 dwelling units for elderly housing and essential related services. A group care home or treatment facility is not permitted specifically in the written description. There's also a companion road closure application to close 16th Street West, 17th Street West, and Wilcox Street. Staff has reviewed this application and finds that it is in the public buildings and facilities land use category. The category does allow for elderly housing, and we find that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We also find that with the written description and the site plan that it does meet the external compatibility criteria that we look at to evaluate it. We are recommending approval of 2012-615 subject to the 4 conditions in your report. I believe there are some minor changes to those.
Just on 2 and 3, it's the same date, but it's revised, not original. That's all.
Okay. So 2 and 3 are the ones that original needs to be changed or revised? Okay. Sir, you have a recommendation for approval with these 4 conditions. Are you familiar with and agreement with those conditions?
I read them before coming, and I left my paper. If they could be read for the record,
Yeah, number 1 is the subject property is legally described in the original legal description dated September 14th, 2012. Number 2 is the subject property shall be developed in accordance with the original, will be developed in accordance with the revised written description dated October 2nd, 2012. And then number 3 is the subject property shall be developed in accordance with the revised site plan dated October 2nd, 2012. And then the 4th one is the subject property shall be developed in accordance with the Development Services Division Memorandum dated October 5th, 2012, or is otherwise approved by Planning and Development Department.
We're good with all of those.
Okay. And I have another speaker's card here for Paul Tutwiler, who supports this application. I don't know if he cares to speak or not.
He's the owner. He's here. I think he basically is in support of the
yeah, he's
project.
That would be awkward. I do have it noted that he does support this application. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Is there anyone else here today to speak to 2012-615? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
I have a question before the agent
Sir?
leaves. Mr. Quinones. I read about this project in the paper, and I have a child at Stanton, and I know how loud the stadium gets on game night. And I just wondered how y'all are going to mitigate that for the residents of this development.
We'll just send them a notice saying that they need to tweak their hearing aids. If you think about it, we got the railroad tracks on the other side, so you know,
should take them to the game.
It's just part of living in the urban part of the city.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, again, just personal privilege just to commend Mr. Tutwiler for what he does for this community, and wish him success with this. It's with great pleasure I recommend approval of 2012-615 to the LUZ as conditioned and revised and read into the record.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-615 as conditioned and amended. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 2012-617. Mr. Duggan again. Yeah, no easel this time. That's good news. If you would again just state your name and address for the record.
Wyman Duggan, 1301 River Place Boulevard, Suite 1500.
Thank you. This is application for plan unit development 2012-617. Seeks to rezone approximately 1.3 acres from PUD to PUD. The existing PUD limits development on parcel B to 15,000 square feet of enclosed area and permits the development of a mixed-use PUD. The rezoning is being sought for the purpose of increasing the total square footage allowed on parcel B by 1,500 to allow the development of an approximately 10,000 square foot daycare facility. The PUD is proposed up to limit the total square footage of development to 16,500 square feet on parcel B. No other changes to the existing PUD are proposed. Staff has reviewed this application, finds it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The parcel is located in the RPI land use category, which does allow for professional office and institutional uses. And again, we have looked at the criteria for external compatibility, and we find that it is met within this PUD. We are recommending approval of 2012-617, subject to the 3 conditions in your report.
All right, you have a recommendation for approval with some conditions. Are you familiar with and agreement with those conditions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Are there any other speakers?
There's no other speakers cards. Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm available for questions.
All right. Is there anyone else here today to speak to 2012-617? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to commission.
Chairman, I move approval of 2012-617 as conditioned.
I have a motion and a second to approve 2012-617 as conditioned. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Staff, when are we getting kicked out of the chambers? I'm sorry, being asked to move. However you state that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've been requested to vacate by 4 o'clock.
Okay. Well, let's, because it's going to take a little bit of time, we're going to take just a 10-minute recess right now, just because if we start now, we're going to go well past when we should break. Staff?
I just wanted to point out for the benefit of anybody who didn't know what the arrangement is, presuming that we will still be going on at 4 o'clock, we will have to break, and we have the training room at the Ed Ball building set up, and we will simply relocate the proceedings to that area.
Yeah, correct. At 4 o'clock, we'll have to take another 10 to 15-minute recess and just switch over there if we are still going at that time. But just to keep from running way past taking a break, we're just going to take a quick 10-minute break right now, and then we'll start up with the last 2 items on the agenda, which is 366 and 367, and 5 points. So we will get back here at 10 till 3. Thank you.
Can we plug this in and see if it works? Is there a place to do it here, or is it? It's just a PowerPoint presentation.
You're up and running?
Now how do you double press to advance the slide? Okay. All right. Cool.
That work for you?
That looks good.
All right, sorry guys. If everyone could grab a seat, we'll go ahead and get started here. All right. We will resume with 2012-366 and 2012-367, companion rezoning. Open up both those public hearings, and Mr. DiBenau. And actually, yeah, well, just real quick while we're starting, I'd like to declare ex parte communication. I did have a discussion with Mr. DiBenau by my office where he came and brought by the site plan and stuff that was submitted with this package to talk about the specifics of the project.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to declare ex parte with Mr. DiBenau and Barney. I'm sorry? Mr. Smith, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I need to declare ex parte communication with Mr. DiBenau and Mr. Smith also about this project.
Mr. Chairman, I too had ex parte with Mr. DiBenau about the site plan for this application.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. DiBenau is a hard-working man. I too need to declare ex parte communication with Mr. DiBenau and Mr. Smith.
Anyone else? All right. Name and address.
Steve DiBenau, 1 Independent Drive, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Peter Slayman, and his partner, Barney Slayman, is here as well.
Okay. Well, let me have the staff introduce it real
Sure.
quick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ordinance 2012-366. This property is located at 2030 Post Street. It's located on the south side of Post Street between Margaret and Goodwin Streets. It consists of 0.14 acres and is vacant, paved lot that has been used for several years as a parking area and for the storage of waste product dumpsters. Currently, the designation is medium-density residential. The request is to take it to community general commercial. The department has reviewed the application and recommends approval.
Application for Planned Unit Development 2012-367 seeks to rezone 2 parcels, Zone CCG1 and RMDB, located in the historic residential character area of the Riverside Avondale zoning overlay. The site includes a parking lot with approximately 82 parking spaces, including 4 ADA spaces. The structure was constructed in 1977. There was a fire on June 18th of 2012. This application reflects a partial reconstruction, reducing the square footage from 18,500 to a proposed 17,287 square feet, with repairs and a rear addition to the Post Street parcel. The application is proposing to construct an addition, dumpster enclosure, loading, and parking area on the lot addressed at 2030 Post Street. Staff has reviewed this application and finds that if the land use amendment is approved, it will be consistent with the comprehensive plan. We do find that the proposed PUD, as conditioned, is consistent with the comprehensive plan and furthers the following policies of the future land use element. 1.1.16, which requires mitigation of adverse land use impacts on adjacent uses. Policy 3.2.2, which shall promote infill and redevelopment of existing commercial areas. And Policy 3.2.4, which permits expansion of commercial uses adjacent to residential areas if such expansion maintains the existing residential character. Again, we have reviewed it and finds that with the written description and our recommended conditions, it will meet the external compatibility requirements. Staff is recommending approval of 2012-367. You should have a copy of revised conditions. There are 21 of those. You should have a separate copy we passed out during the break. So you can see we did make some revisions to some of those conditions, so that's for you to see. I would like to point out that on condition number 3, we talk about the subject property be developed in accordance with the revised site plan dated November 7th. This is not a wholehearted approval of that site plan. There are conditions, further conditions in there that would require modification of that site plan, and that would come back through at verification if the commission so decides to adopt those. But we are recommending approval with the 21 conditions.
Mr. Chair and Commission, if I can, just to clarify, and I'm sorry if you guys have already done this, but for the record, the land use amendment ordinance number is 2012-336, not 366. So for all purposes of references and the staff report and any people that are going to speak here, the land use is 2012-336, and the rezoning, I believe, is correct, 2012-367. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. DiBenau, you have a recommendation for approval with a whole lot of conditions. Have you had a chance to read through those conditions?
Yeah, I've looked through the conditions, and there's, I don't know how you want to do this, if you want me to go through and tell you the ones that we're okay with and circle the ones that we want to talk about, or do you want me to give a quick overview of the project first?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll give you some seconds here. Councilman Love was here. I don't know if you want to say anything or just recognize that you are with us. Afterwards, okay. And I would just like to, before we get started, make sure the commission knows I'm going to give some leeway as far as speaking to the land use and speaking to the rezoning, because they are, can be seen somewhat different items because the land use is just over a portion of this PUD versus the entire thing. So kind of be aware as we're talking about this that there's 2 separate issues here that we're looking at. Most of the time the land use and the PUD are exactly the same piece of land. So I just kind of want to make that clear. The bat phone is ringing. We could wait for that to stop. Or if we can unplug it. Hold on 1 second, Mr. DiBenau. All right, we'll proceed. Mr. DiBenau, I would say if you can, I'll give you 6 minutes just to address each issue since we are talking about land use and zoning. But if you can sort of make your presentation in 6 minutes, and then I'll give you a chance to speak at the end as well after comments have been heard.
I'm going to just show you. Can you guys see on your screen what I've got up on a presentation? You can see that or no? Okay. If you don't, I've got books that I can hand out as well.
Is it the council chambers video? Orange cone, perfect.
Do you guys have it?
It's pulling up right now.
Okay.
Yep, I've got it. Just the orange cone. Is everyone ready? All right, you can go ahead.
All right, so you can see the property right in the middle of the page here. Off to the right where it says PUD, that's the Five Points Theater, and kind of up and to the right is where the duck pond is. This property was developed in 1977, and you can see that there is a parcel in the back down Post Street which has split zoning on it and also a split land use. The purpose of this change, the land use change, is to make the line match the property that's across the street. And the rezoning then is to accomplish upgrading the entire property. We filed this application in May of this year. This property was acquired by Peter Slayman in 2009, and he's been systematically since that time going around the city and upgrading various properties that he owns. This one hasn't had much work done on it in many years, and as a result, he wanted to upgrade this property. That back parcel is currently used for parking and dumpsters and for the grease traps, and it's become one of the big issues that we'll talk about later on. But this is to give you an idea of what's going on from a land use and zoning perspective towards Margaret Street. The next one is the subject properties in the upper left-hand corner. Again, right across the street is the Five Points Theater. You've got the residential neighborhood to the left, and you guys are familiar probably with this entire area generally. This is really to show you the proximity of this property to the commercial district to 5 Points, which is just right to the right on the other side of that triangle. This next slide, if you're still with me, this is what the property looked like when we filed the application originally. And the hatched part on the right-hand side of the picture was the proposed expansion. At this time, the property had 18,500 square feet, and we were proposing an addition of 2,500 square feet, so that it would be a total of approximately 21,000 square feet. And you can see that there are 7 tenants that were located in this configuration. The configuration at the very top where it says retail on Forbes Street, that used to be a Blockbuster Video, then it was a Wasabi's, and then unfortunately, as you all know, that piece of property actually burned. This is a color rendering of that existing site plan, and at the time, showing again the proposed building expansion, which showed an approximately 13-foot expansion into the medium-density residential land use district that's in the MDR land use and the RMD zoning that's right behind this property. As you can see, I want you to take note of the curb cuts, one each on Post Street and Forbes, and then there were also curb cuts on Margaret Street. And you'll see a little bit later on that we're proposing abandoning the curb cuts on Margaret Street, and we're asking for 2 curb cuts each on Forbes and Post. But this is the configuration that it exists, the way it existed before the fire. Just real quickly, these are some photos. You can see there's absolutely no landscaping at all in the parking lot. It's just concrete from corner to corner, and you can see the old tenants. Again, these were all before the fire. This is the elevation on Post Street. With to the right there, you can see the dumpster. That's the parking lot back where the dumpsters and the grease traps were located. This is the Forbes Street elevation, and you can see a couple of doors. One of the issues here was that the previous tenants, were dumping their garbage on Forbes Street because they had really easy access through these doors out onto Forbes. One of the things that the planning department and the neighbors and RAP asked us to do was to close off this elevation so there wouldn't be any doors at all, no access at all onto Forbes Street. This is a picture to give you an idea of what that area looks like right now. Very haphazard. The way this property has been managed historically is that each tenant owned their own dumpster service, and if they're a restaurant, their own grease trap service. So there wasn't any coordination at all, and if tenants stopped paying their bills like Wasabi did, sometimes the trash got picked up, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes the grease trap got cleaned out, sometimes it didn't. As part of the conditions in the rezoning, we've agreed to take ownership of the dumpsters as well as the grease traps so that it's all consolidated under the ownership of the property owner, and that he will pay those bills to ensure they're paid and then pass along those expenses as a part of the CAM for the shopping center. All the way in the back there, you can see that the tank on the left-hand side, that's gone. That was part of Wasabi's operation. The little dumpster way in the back there is actually a grease trap, and that's pushed right up against the wall that's behind the property on Forbes Street. And what we're proposing to do back here is to add a landscape buffer where that little grease trap is, as well as down the right-hand side of this property. This sign this picture really doesn't do this sign justice. This is about a 35-foot high pole sign. That's a real eyesore. We're proposing to replace this with a monument sign that we'll look at later, but that is an enormous sign that exists today. This is an old photo mat that's an ATM that's currently located at the corner of Forbes and Market. Again, we're asking that this use be permitted to continue. We're proposing that the driveway be closed, but we'd still like the ability to have a drive-through ATM machine at this location. That ATM machine's been there for 20 years, and we'd like for that use to be able to continue. This is the other curb cut on Margaret Street that we're proposing to close. That's the corner of Margaret and Post. And then, as I mentioned, on June 18th, there was a fire that burned down. This used to be the front facade of Wasabi. And that fire was of unknown origin. We never could determine who actually caused the fire, but it happened at 3:30 in the morning, started in Wasabi, and it was as you can see, quite destructive. From an aerial view, you can see in red what was taken down by the fire. We actually, after the fire was put out and the insurance adjusters had been through, we had a structural engineer go in and work with us to determine exactly where this building should be cut in order to preserve whatever is allowed to continue because it's structurally sound. And so the red hatched area is what physically got removed and taken off site. Everything else is standing, and there's a letter in the file from the engineer certifying that the back left portion of this property, it's still viable, it's still stable, it doesn't need to be repaired, it needs to be repaired, it doesn't need to be replaced. That is the walls, the beams, and the frame of that entire property. We had a dispute with the planning department about whether or not we could rebuild this space. In the end, we abandoned our ability to rebuild this, even though we think we're entitled to it. This is about 4,000 square feet that's being removed, and as a result of our request by adding 2,500 square feet off the back, the entire development is going to be approximately 1,500 square feet less than it was before the fire. So before the fire, it was about 18,500 square feet. After the fire, it'll be 17,250 square feet. So actually about 1,250 square feet less than it existed before the fire. These are some pictures inside the building, and I wanted to show you these so that you can get a feel for the integrity of the wall, the roof, and the beams. It's black on the left, and it's clear on the right. That's where there was a firewall. And so there was a ton of damage and smoke to the left of this picture. You're basically standing right now at the front door of the old Firehouse Subs and looking into this space. So to you're facing Forbes, and to the left is Margaret. Okay. I'm sorry, Diane. You're facing Forbes, and to the left is Margaret Street. We'll spin around the inside a little bit more. Again, these are just some interior pictures to show the integrity of the inside of the building. All right. So now then we'll get to that's kind of the history on the project. Let's get to the actual site plan. What we proposed is shown here on the site plan, and I won't go through it in great detail till we go through it on the conditions that the planning department's put on it. But basically in the upper right-hand corner is the parking lot and the garage and the dumpster area on 2030 Post Street. And you can see a 10-foot landscape buffer at the top, and then you see a 5-foot landscape buffer next to 2029 Forbes Street. This is the November 7th site plan, and we're actually able to increase that buffer to 10 feet wide. So I have a revised picture of that space that'll show a 10-foot buffer along 2029 Forbes Street, and then between 2030 Post and 2036 Post Street. Out in the parking lot, you can see that we've added landscaping, a crosswalk. The ATM is shown down here in the lower left-hand corner, deleting these curb cuts on Margaret Street that exist today, and then we've asked for curb cuts, 2 on Forbes, 2 on Post Street. And the overall site plan square footage, 17,287 square feet. Again, here are a few of the side elevations. This is Forbes Street. Again, not showing any more doors or access points on Forbes Street. On Post Street, we'd envisioned outdoor dining along Post Street. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. And then finally, circling back to the sign and the dumpsters. The sign, as I described earlier today, is a 35-foot high pole sign. We're proposing a 15-foot 11-inch monument sign. The staff report asks for a 10-foot high monument sign. And then at the bottom of this page are the elevations of the dumpster enclosures. So not only is Mr. Slaming going to take ownership of the dumpsters and ensure their operation, the fact that they're paid for and that they're properly serviced and maintained, but they're also going to be fully enclosed and screened. And then finally, we also are going to, we agree with the planning department's recommendation about locating those dumpsters as far away from the residents as possible. That is 50 feet from the home on Forbes Street and 25 feet from the home that's on Post Street. And then finally here what you have is an elevation. This is a revised elevation that the historic the JHPC, the Historic Preservation Commission, approved, this has been revised to reflect their conditions, but it hasn't been approved by staff yet. This is just an example of what we think the new elevation will look like. And you can see that we've offset the building facades. It's different materials, different colors, different heights. We have the appearance of a knee wall and all of those things that you would traditionally see on a development in this part of the city. I'll stop there, and I don't know if you want to go through the conditions, or I'll do, Mr. Chairman, however you'd like to proceed.
Just, I guess specifically, which conditions on this list of 21 did you take issue with?
So we're fine, obviously, conditions 1 and 2 and 3. Condition 2 is going to need to be redated for a new site plan.
Okay.
Because by the time we get back, there'll be changes to the site plan. But conditions 1, 2, and 3 we're fine with. Condition number 5, we want to talk about condition 4, which are the curb cuts.
Okay.
Condition number 5, we have already removed filling or gas station. We have already removed dancing entertainment establishments. And the drive-through and drive-up facility, we'd like to narrow that so that it just relates to ATMs. We just want the ability to do a drive-up ATM. We're not trying to do a drive-up liquor store or a drive-up fast food or anything like that. We have some additional changes in the conditions that we received from some of the neighbors that we can either go through now and I can describe for you what else we've agreed to change, or we can do those at the end. What I'll do is I'll just make a note of it. There's about a half a dozen more changes that we've agreed to with the neighbors that aren't reflected in these conditions, but we'll come back at the end.
Yeah, at the end, you can read
and
those.
Talk about those. On number 6, condition number 6, we're okay with all of number 6, except for the very last phrase that says that all parking shall be met on site. And we'd like to talk about the possibility of getting credit for the parking that we're creating on Margaret Street. So condition number 6 is okay, except for that very last phrase that says meet all parking on site. Condition number 7 we're fine with. Condition number 8, the one problem we have with condition number 8 is that it says the second and third words are if any part. It says if any part of the existing structure is demolished. Well, we've got a doorway clearly that we're going to demolish on Forbes Street. We've got the stucco all the way around the building that's going to get demolished. There may be a few concrete blocks that have to be removed and replaced, but we can't meet the standard if any part. So we'd ask that there be some kind of a standard or some type of a percentage or some standard way that we can talk about. I understand what the intent is of number 8, but just those words, any part, make it tough. Number 9, I want to take a moment there. We volunteered to sprinkle the building. Under the code, we believe that if we spend less than 35% of the value of the building renovating it, close the front facade, repair the roof, build out the space that's damaged, if we spend 35% or less, that non-conforming use can stay and we would not have to sprinkle the building. Because of the fire, because of the conditions of the proximity of the house on Forbes Street, we've agreed to fire rate the wall on the back that's adjacent, as well as sprinkle the entire building. So we agree with condition 9, but I just wanted to highlight that's something that that we're doing. On condition number 10, we like the first part about allowing to do parking on Margaret. The landscape islands, we just, I think, have a little bit of wordsmithing that we would need to do to figure out the difference between the landscape islands and the terminal islands in the context of that space. And then no parking on the right-of-way of Post and Forbes. We actually proposed doing angled parking on Forbes and Post in order to keep cars out of the neighborhood. At least that was our intent. And it recognizes that there are commercial uses on the other sides of Post and Forbes. So we think condition 10, we have some work to do on that one. Condition number 11, that also is kind of a combination of number 4 and number 10, talking about parking. You know, we want to be able to get credit for the parking that we create on Margaret Street. Condition number 12 is about, again, about curb cuts. We'd like to have 2 on Post and 2 on Forbes. The planning department is recommending 1 on each side, and then 1 at 2030 Post Street. Number 13 we agree with. Number 14, we agree with the part that it won't be internally illuminated. We agree with 1 freestanding monument sign. We'd like to talk about the height. The staff says 10 feet. The staff also says 60 feet in square feet. We'd like to have it closer to 85 feet, which is what was approved for the Publix over in Riverside. And then the very last part of that condition that we'd want to talk about is the maximum square footage of signage. We agree with the condition that says 32 square feet maximum. If you look at the elevation, see the sections that are kind of like yellowish in the middle, just to the left and the right of the center. We're fine with the condition the way the planning department wrote it for those sections, but we'd like the square footage on the signs to go up to 45 square feet on the taller portions of the elevation. On condition number 15, we agree with that condition, and we're adding actually an additional 5 foot of buffer next to 2029 Forbes Street that actually exceeds that condition. 16 is the ATM. We've talked about that already. 17 is a condition that we can that we would agree with. We're also open to talking about hours of operation and frequency of pickup on condition number 17. Number 18 we're fine with. Number 19 we're fine with. Number 20 we are fine with. And number 21 we are fine with. But I just would love someone from the staff on the record to confirm the conversation we had earlier today, which was that if we meet the JHPC final order, that condition number 21 doesn't put any additional requirements on us when we come back for any facade renovations. I'm sorry that was long, but that
well, I wanted to get those,
frames it up.
I wanted to get those conditions addressed. And then do you have written down the other 6 conditions you've agreed with some of the residents on?
Yeah, the other conditions that we talked about are in the written description. We changed letter B to reflect that it was only ATMs. The way that it was written before, it had the appearance of allowing drive-through liquor and drive-through fast food. We changed, again on page 2 of the written description, we changed condition B to make it clear that we were only talking about ATMs. And I won't wordsmith it for you now, but that was what we agreed to on B. On letter D, we took out bowling alleys, swimming pools, indoor skating rinks, movie theaters, indoor facilities operated by pari-mutuel permit holder, adult arcade. The real purpose of D for us is we want to be able to know that a tenant could sell a lottery ticket. So we might even be able to just write D very simply so that you're allowed to sell lottery tickets. That's really what the intent was of changing letter D and taking out some of those other changes. On letter J, on the written description, this is on page 3 of the written description, retail plant nurseries including outside display, period. So everything after the word display we would delete. Letter M we would delete in its entirety. And then way down at the bottom where it says drive through and drive up, we've covered this already. That's clarified to make it so that it was just an ATM use. And then finally, the rear setback, we would draft that rear setback to reflect whatever the site plan is that's approved. So for example, next to 2029 Forbes Street, that condition would be 2.76 feet, which is what exists today. Previously it said none, and so we would agree to change the rear setback to reflect the current conditions. And then same thing over on 2030 Post Street. The front setback, we're agreeable to change the front setback to, whatever CCG 1 is. I think it's 10 feet. And then maximum lot coverage by all buildings, we're agreeable to change the maximum lot coverage as well. There was another set of conditions that we received from RAP today, or yesterday rather, and we have not had an opportunity to go through all of those and figure out which ones of those that we could agree to. Some of them were picked up in the list that I just read. There were probably 3 or 4 more others. I think RAP was concerned about a church being there, about a vocational school being there, and a couple of other uses that we're reviewing, but we haven't yet come to an agreement on those.
Okay. And I'll give you some time to, at the end, to address any comments there might be. We're supposed to be out of here at 3:30 or 4? 3:30. And are they ready for us in the training room?
And it was my understanding 4 o'clock, but turns out it's 3:30. The remaining staff at the planning department was going to go downstairs at 3 o'clock and set up the training room, so hopefully they should have accomplished that, and we could probably go on over.
All right, we'll get over there and start as soon as everyone gets over there. Does everyone know? If you don't know where the training room is, it's in the Ed Ball building, which, hold on, I'm pointing the wrong direction here. The park's behind us, and you go across the park to the right. The park's right there? Yes, the park's right there. So it's basically that way, a block and a half, and it's in the training room downstairs by the bottom of the escalators. Where the escalators go up, the training room's there to the right at the bottom of the escalators. So we'll get started there in probably about 10 minutes, as long as everything's ready to go. Sorry.
I don't know if you guys, there's a bunch of these. Yeah, you can have all of them. Yeah, whoever wants them or needs them.
Hey, man.
What do you think about it? But I mean, just in general.